I stared at the security footage on my tablet, my hand trembling so violently I had to set down my champagne before I shattered the glass. 7 years. 7 years I'd spent becoming someone else, building an empire from ash and fury, and there she was. My face, my exact face, wearing diamonds I should have worn, holding children I should have held. "Breathe, Laura," my assistant Marco murmured from behind me. We stood in the shadows of the Milan Grand Hotel's balcony, overlooking the glittering charity gala below. "You knew she'd be here. This is what we planned." I knew, but knowing and seeing are different countries entirely. Sebastian Bercy stood beside her, beside Lily, wearing my face, his hand possessive on her waist. Tattooed, dangerous. Exactly as I remembered from that one night that destroyed everything. He looked at her the way a king surveys his territory, with absolute certainty of ownership. She'd stolen my identity, my children, my life. And he had no idea the woman he'd built his empire with was a ghost wearing his real queen's face. "Ms. Vance," Marco's voice cut through my rage. "The children just entered the garden, all 4 of them." My heart stopped. "Show me." "Welcome back, my beautiful souls and kindred spirits. Before we start, go ahead and subscribe, like, and share where you're watching from. It always warms my heart to see our little storytelling family stretch across the world. Every click, every comment, every bit of love you give helps us keep uncovering these unforgettable stories together. So find your quiet place, settle in, and let me take you somewhere you've never been before." The tablet screen split into 4 security feeds: garden, east entrance, rose maze, fountain courtyard. And there they were. Dylan and Gabby, the twins Lily stole, walked with the practiced elegance of Mafia royalty. Dylan's little tuxedo was perfect. Gabby's dress cost more than most people's cars. They moved through the garden like they owned it, because in their world, they did. Then I saw them, my Bobbies, Ivy and Noah. I dressed them carefully tonight, knowing this moment would come. Ivy in midnight blue, Noah in a suit that matched his father's, though he didn't know that yet. They looked around with wide-eyed wonder, overwhelmed by the opulence. So different from Dylan and Gabby's bored entitlement. "They're approaching each other," Marco said, unnecessarily. I couldn't look away. 4 children, identical faces. Same dark hair, same sharp cheekbones, same distinctive Bercy birthmark hidden beneath their clothes. They moved toward the fountain like magnets, like biology itself was screaming what years of deception had tried to bury. Dylan saw Noah first. He froze. Gabby grabbed Ivy's arm, her face shifting from confusion to something that looked almost like recognition. Impossible. They'd been separated since birth. But I'd read the study's twin bonds, quadruplet connections. The science said they'd know. And they did. "Marco, where's Sebastian right now?" "Still inside, talking to the German ambassador, but..." The fire alarm shattered the night. Chaos erupted instantly. The gala's 1,000 guests flooded toward exits. Security swarmed. In the garden, I watched nannies rush forward, grabbing children with panicked efficiency. But in the smoke and confusion, in the press of bodies and screaming chaos, I saw it happen. The switch. The wrong nannies grabbed the wrong children. Sebastian's driver pulled away with my Ivy, and Noah in the back seat. And my security detail was herding Dylan and Gabby toward my car, thinking they were mine. "Ms. Vance, we need to evacuate." "Get me to that car, now!" My voice came out cold, harder than diamonds. 7 years of surgical reconstruction had changed my face. 7 years of loss had changed everything else. I'd come to Italy to destroy my sister and reclaim my children through careful planning and corporate warfare. Instead, fate had just thrown all 4 of my Bobbies into play in a single, catastrophic night. The hunt I'd planned for months was starting 3 hours early. And Sebastian Bercy, the man who'd unknowingly fathered my children, who'd been living with an imposter for 7 years, was about to discover his perfect life was built on lies. I just had to survive long enough to prove it. The car door slammed shut, and I finally looked at the children huddled in my backseat. Wrong faces, wrong fear, wrong everything. These weren't my bobbies. Dylan stared at me with Sebastian's eyes, cold, assessing, already calculating if I was a threat. He was 7 years old and already had his father's predator instinct. Gabby pressed against him, silent, her little hand clutching his sleeve with the practiced desperation of a child who'd learned tears changed nothing. "Who are you?" Dylan's voice was steady, too steady. "Where's our mother?" Our mother? He meant Lily, the woman who stole him from my arms while I bled out on a clinic floor. My voice cracked. I gripped the steering wheel, trying to remember the script Marco and I had prepared. The careful lies, the strategic approach. But 7 years of planning evaporated the moment Dylan shifted in his seat and his jacket slipped off his shoulder. There, right there. The Bercy birthmark, a small crescent moon, identical to the one Noah had. The one the doctors had pointed out when they'd handed me my son, telling me all 4 children bore the same mark. Proof of their father's bloodline, proof they were mine. I couldn't breathe. "Ma'am," Gabby's small voice broke through my paralysis. "Ma'am, you're crying." I was, tears streaming down my reconstructed face, my surgically perfected mask cracking under the weight of seeing them, really seeing them. Dylan had my original nose, the one I'd had before the procedures. Gabby had my mother's smile, the one I saw in old photographs before the cancer took her. My bobbies, my stolen bobbies, right here. But Ivy and Noah, God, Ivy and Noah were with Sebastian, with Lily, in that fortress of a house where I couldn't reach them, couldn't protect them, couldn't even call without exposing everything. "It's okay," I managed, turning to face them fully. Dylan tensed, ready to fight or flee. "You're safe, I promise you're safe." "We want to go home." Dylan's jaw set with pure Bercy stubbornness. "Take us home right now." Home? He meant the gilded cage where Lily had raised him, where she'd poisoned him against me before he ever knew I existed, where she'd stolen 7 years of goodnight kisses and scraped knees and first words I'd never hear. "I will," I whispered. "I will take you home." I just didn't know which home I meant anymore. Because holding 2 of my children meant losing the other 2. And Solomon's choice had never felt more like a curse than it did in this moment, with Dylan's birthmark burning into my vision and Gabby's frightened breathing filling my ears. Marco's voice crackled through my earpiece. "Laura, Sebastian just discovered his children are missing. He's mobilizing every asset he has." My children, not his, mine. But try telling that to the man who'd spent 7 years believing he was their father while the real mother watched from the shadows, rebuilding herself into a weapon sharp enough to cut through all his lies. Sebastian watched his children climb out of the car and felt something shift in his chest. Wrong. Everything about this moment felt wrong. Dylan moved differently, hesitant. His son never hesitated. The boy had inherited his killer instinct at birth, walked into rooms like he owned them by age 3. But this child, Dylan, it had to be Dylan, took careful steps up the marble stairs, eyes wide, drinking in the estate like he'd never seen it before. Impossible. The boy had lived here his entire life. "Dylan," Sebastian crouched down, studying his son's face. Same features, same dark hair, but the eyes looking back at him held something foreign. Fear. His children weren't afraid of him. They'd been raised in this world, understood its rules, accepted its darkness. "Yes, sir." The small voice was barely a whisper. "Sir, not Papa, not even Father." Lily swept forward, her heels clicking against marble with that particular rhythm she'd perfected over 7 years. His wife, his queen, mother of his children. She reached for Gabby, and Sebastian watched his daughter actually flinch. Flinch from her own mother. "Bambina, what's wrong?" Lily's voice carried an edge Sebastian had learned to recognize. The same tone she used when things didn't go according to her carefully constructed plans. "You're being very dramatic. It was just a fire alarm." "I'm sorry." Gabby's apology came too quick, too practiced. Like a child who'd learned to apologize preemptively. His daughter never apologized. She was Bercy blood. She commanded apologies. "Sebastian." Lily turned to him, and for just a fraction of a second, he saw something flicker across her face. Panic. They're exhausted. The chaos at the gala traumatized them. I'll put them to bed. No, he didn't know why he said it. Instinct, perhaps. The same instinct that had kept him alive through 20 years of Mafia warfare. I'll do it. He took each child's hand. Both felt small, fragile, unfamiliar. Dylan's palm was soft, too soft. His son had started boxing training at 5, had the calluses to prove it. And Gabby's grip was desperate, clinging like she was afraid he'd disappear. Come, let's get you settled. As they climbed the stairs, Sebastian glanced back at Lily. She stood frozen in the foyer, her face a mask of perfect concern. But her hands, he'd built an empire reading tells, her hands were trembling. His wife was afraid. And Sebastian Bercy had learned long ago that fear only lived where secrets bred. Later, after he'd tucked them in, both children staring at the opulent bedroom like they'd stumbled into a museum, Sebastian stood in the hallway and made a call. Run DNA tests. Tonight, my children, all samples we have on file. Boss is there. Do it, and find out who the woman was. The one in the black dress at the gala. The one who left right after the alarm. Because somewhere between the chaos and the confusion, between his children becoming strangers and his wife becoming afraid, Sebastian's instincts were screaming what his mind refused to accept. Something had been taken from him 7 years ago. And tonight, something had been returned. The meeting was supposed to be professional. A simple business proposition in his downtown office, surrounded by lawyers and contracts and the sanitized language of corporate warfare. Sebastian hadn't expected her to smell like jasmine and gunpowder. Mr. Bercy, Lorna Vance extended her hand across the mahogany desk, and when their palms touched, electricity shot through his arm. Sharp, undeniable, wrong. He'd touched 1,000 hands in this office. None had ever felt like lightning. Thank you for seeing me on such short notice. Ms. Vance. He held her hand a fraction too long, watching her pupils dilate, so she felt it too. Good, unsettling, but good. Your proposal was intriguing. Intriguing didn't cover it. Her tech company wanted to partner with his security firm, integrate AI surveillance into his operations. The kind of access that would put her cameras in every corner of his empire. Normally, he'd have his men throw her out for the audacity. But he'd spent the last 48 hours watching his children act like strangers, and Lorna Vance had left the gala exactly when the chaos started. Coincidence didn't exist in his world. I prefer to work with the best. She settled into the chair with a grace that felt practiced, rehearsed. Everything about her was perfect. Too perfect. The designer suit that cost 3 months' salary, the flawless skin that looked expensive, the carefully neutral accent that placed her nowhere. And you, Mr. Bercy, are legendary. Legendary? He leaned back, studying her. Dark hair, sharp cheekbones, eyes that watched him with an intensity that made his pulse quicken. Is that a compliment or a warning? Can it be both? The corner of his mouth twitched. He couldn't remember the last time someone had challenged him so smoothly. Lily certainly didn't. His wife had perfected submission wrapped in silk, always agreeing, always yielding. This woman looked like she'd gut him if he gave her the chance. It was arousing as hell. Walk me through the security protocols. He stood, moving to the window. Milan stretched below them, his city, his kingdom. Convince me why I should let your cameras into my home. She rose, joining him at the glass. Close, too close. That jasmine scent again, mixed with something else. Something familiar he couldn't quite place. Because someone already has access to your home, Mr. Bercy. Her voice dropped, intimate, dangerous. Someone who shouldn't, and you know it. His hand was on her throat before his brain caught up with his instinct. Not squeezing, just there, claiming, warning. Her pulse hammered against his palm, rapid but steady, unafraid. Careful, Ms. Vance. His thumb traced her jawline. Accusations like that get people killed in my world. Good thing I'm hard to kill. She didn't pull away. Met his gaze with something that looked like fury wrapped in frost. Shall we discuss terms? Or would you prefer to keep threatening me while your children wonder why Daddy's so distracted lately? He released her, stepped back. My office, tomorrow, bring the contracts. And the access codes. Sebastian smiled, sharp as broken glass. Push your luck, Ms. Vance, and you won't live long enough to need them. She smiled back, and for one crystalline second, he saw something flicker beneath her perfect mask. Recognition. Lily watched the children eat breakfast and felt her carefully constructed world beginning to crack. Red Cardinal, she said softly, testing. It was Dylan's trigger phrase, the code she'd spent years conditioning into him. Hear those words, stop whatever you're doing, come to Mama immediately. Pavlovian obedience wrapped in maternal concern. The boy kept eating his eggs. Dylan, sharper now, Red Cardinal. He looked up, confused. What about cardinals? Wrong answer. Completely, catastrophically wrong. Her Dylan would have been at her side already, eyes glazed with the compliant devotion she'd cultivated since infancy. This child just stared at her like she was speaking another language. Gabby, she turned to her daughter, desperation creeping into her voice. Silver lining, remember. Gabby, except it wasn't Gabby, couldn't be Gabby, tilted her head. You mean like finding something good in something bad? My other mommy used to say that all the time. The crystal glass in Lily's hand shattered. Other mommy. What did you say? Her voice came out strangled. Nothing. The little girl's eyes went wide with fear. Real fear. The kind Lily had never seen in her daughter because Gabby had been trained to worship her, not fear her. I'm sorry, I meant you. You're my only mommy. But the damage was done. The truth was spilling out in small, devastating leaks. These weren't her children. Lily's mind raced, rewinding through the chaos of the gala. The fire alarm, the smoke, the confusion. She'd been inside, schmoozing with the German ambassador's wife, playing her role as the perfect Mafia queen. By the time she'd reached the garden, the nannies had already secured the children. Except they hadn't. They'd secured the wrong children. Which meant somewhere in Milan, Laura's children, the brats she'd left Laura to raise in exile, were now in Laura's possession. And Laura had Dylan and Gabby. Laura, who was supposed to be dead, who Lily had watched bleeding out on that clinic floor 7 years ago, too weak to even scream as Lily took her firstborns. But if these were Laura's children, that meant Laura had survived, had been planning, had been watching, had somehow engineered this swap. Mommy, the girl's voice cut through her panic. You're bleeding. Lily looked down. The shattered glass had sliced her palm open, blood pooling on the white tablecloth like an accusation. Go to your rooms, she whispered. Now. Both children fled. The moment she was alone, Lily pulled out her encrypted phone. Her hands shook as she scrolled through her contacts, past Sebastian's number, past her legitimate connections, down to the names that lived in the shadows. The fixers, the cleaners, the people who made problems disappear. She found the number she needed and pressed call. I need you to find someone. Her voice was ice over boiling rage. Laura Marchetti, pull every record, every hospital, every Jane Doe from 7 years ago. She's alive. And when we find her. Lily stared at the blood on her hands, thinking of everything she'd built, everything she'd stolen, everything she stood to lose. Kill her, for real this time. Sebastian stood frozen in the doorway of the guest nursery, listening to a ghost sing his children to sleep. Stella Stellina la Nazi Avicina. Lorna's voice was soft, achingly tender, as she stroked Ivy's hair. The old Italian lullaby his grandmother used to sing, the one he hadn't heard in 20 years. The one a woman had hummed against his chest 7 years ago, in the hazy moments after passion, before the world went dark and he woke up alone. La Fiamma Trabala, La Mucki Grav Nella Stalla. He knew those words, knew that melody. It lived somewhere deep in his memory, tangled with jasmine perfume and soft skin and a night that had never made sense. He'd chalked it up to too much whiskey, to the fog of grief after his father's funeral, to the recklessness of a man who needed to feel something other than rage. But he remembered that song. Lorna finished the verse, and Ivy's breathing deepened into sleep. She pressed a kiss to the child's forehead, lingering, desperate. Like she was memorizing the moment. When she straightened and turned, she startled. Mr. Bearcy, her composure snapped back into place instantly, too instantly. I didn't hear you. Clearly, he stepped into the room, watching him. That's an unusual lullaby. Where did you learn it? Something flickered across her face. Pain, fear. My mother used to sing it. Funny, he moved closer, predator to prey, until he could smell that jasmine scent again, until he could see the pulse hammering in her throat. A woman sang that exact song to me once, 7 years ago. Then she disappeared. Laura, because he was certain now, somehow certain that Lorna Vance was a lie, held his gaze. Perhaps you have a type, Mr. Bearcy. Perhaps. His hand came up, fingertips brushing her reconstructed cheek. The bone structure was different, refined, but the way she leaned into his touch before catching herself, familiar. Or perhaps the woman who disappeared never really left. She stepped back, breaking contact. Your imagination is running wild. I'm here for business. Are you? He pulled out his phone, thumbed to his messages. Because my head of security just informed me that Lorna Vance didn't exist before 5 years ago. No birth certificate, no school records, no trace. You're a ghost with a corporation, Ms. Vance. Lots of people reinvent themselves. Her voice stayed steady, but her hands clenched. Especially women escaping bad situations. True, he pocketed the phone. Which is why I'll give you one chance to tell me the truth. Who are you? And why do my children respond to you like you're their mother? Silence stretched between them, heavy with 7 years of lies. I'm the woman you should have protected. The words came out raw, unfiltered. I'm the ghost you created when you believed a liar over blood. And I'm the reckoning you've been dreading since the moment you looked at those children and knew something was wrong. Sebastian's world tilted. Before she could move, he grabbed her wrist, pressed her hand against the tablet he'd been carrying. The biometric scanner beeped. What are you? Getting answers. He released her, pulling a strand of Ivy's hair from the pillow. DNA doesn't lie, Lorna, or Laura, or whoever the hell you really are. Her face went white. The results will take 48 hours, he continued, his voice deadly calm. And if you run, I will hunt you to the ends of the earth. Understood. She lifted her chin, and there, finally, he saw it. The woman from that night, the fire, the fury. Understood. Laura stared at the medical reports scattered across her hotel suite, her hands shaking so violently she had to grip the desk to steady herself. Arsenic, small doses, administered over 18 months. The hacked files from Sebastian's private physician painted a clear picture. Unexplained fatigue, intermittent numbness, cognitive fog. The doctor had attributed it to stress, prescribed vitamins, never thought to test for poison. Why would he? Who poisons a Mafia don in his own home? His wife, that's who. Lily was killing him. Slowly, methodically, waiting for the day Sebastian's heart would simply stop and she'd inherit everything. The Bearcy Empire. The offshore accounts. The legitimate businesses and the blood-soaked ones. All of it, wrapped up with a widow's tears and a mother's devotion to their children. Except they weren't her children. They were Laura's, and Lily was poisoning their father. Laura's finger hovered over her phone. One call to Sebastian, one message with these files attached. She could save him, expose Lily, watch her sister's perfect life crumble into ash and criminal charges. But Sebastian had lived with Lily for 7 years, had believed her lies, had built a life on the foundation of Laura's destruction. He'd never questioned why the woman in his bed couldn't remember details from their night together. Never wondered why his wife flinched at intimacy, why she controlled everything, why she seemed to love power more than him. He deserved this, didn't he? This slow death by the woman he'd chosen. Laura's reflection stared back at her from the darkened window. Surgically perfected, emotionally destroyed. A mother who'd spent 7 years becoming hard enough to watch her children's father die. Except Ivy had asked about him yesterday. That man at the big house seemed sad, Mama. Why was he sad? Because he's dying, baby. Because his wife is killing him and he doesn't even know it. Damn it! Laura grabbed her phone, pulling up Sebastian's private number, the one he'd given her for business emergencies. Her thumb hovered over the call button. If she saved him, she'd reveal how deep her access went. He'd know she'd hacked his systems, invaded his privacy, been watching him for months. It would compromise everything. If she didn't, her children would grow up without a father. Dylan and Gabby would lose the only parent they'd ever known. Ivy and Noah would never know the man whose blood ran through their veins. And Lily would win, again. The phone rang before she could decide. Marco's name flashed across the screen. Talk to me. Boss, we have a problem. Lily just transferred $15 million to a known assassin's account. The target profile matches your description. New face, old identity, current location Milan. Laura's blood turned to ice. When? Wire went through 20 minutes ago. If he's already in the city. I'm a dead woman. She grabbed her gun from the desk drawer, checking the clip. And Sebastian dies in 3 months anyway if someone doesn't tell him his wife is poisoning his coffee. So what's the play? Laura looked at the medical files, at Sebastian's number in her phone, at the reflection of a woman who'd spent 7 years choosing between vengeance and mercy. Call Sebastian, send him everything. The arsenic reports, Lily's financial records, the whole file. That exposes our surveillance capabilities. I know, she chambered around. But I didn't survive 7 years in hell just to let my sister murder the father of my children, even if he is an idiot who couldn't tell he was sleeping with the wrong woman. She hit send before she could change her mind. 3 seconds later, her phone exploded with an incoming call. Sebastian. The emergency alert hit Laura's phone at 3 a.m., GPS trackers offline, all 4 children, simultaneously. She was in Sebastian's car before her heart resumed beating, his driver taking corners at suicidal speed while Sebastian coordinated his men through 3 phones at once. Professional, efficient, deadly calm. Except his hands were shaking. The cliffside house, one of his lieutenants reported through the speaker. Thermal imaging shows 5 signatures, 4 small, 1 adult. She's got them on the terrace. The terrace, 300 feet above the Mediterranean, nothing but rocks and black water below. She's my sister, Laura said, her voice barely functioning. Let me talk to her. Sebastian's eyes met hers in the rearview mirror. They'd spent the last 6 hours in his study, piecing together 7 years of deception. The DNA results had come back an hour ago. Dylan, Gabby, Ivy, and Noah. All his, all hers. All stolen by a woman who'd convinced him she was their mother while poisoning him slowly toward the grave. If talking worked, she wouldn't have 4 children on a cliff. She's desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. Desperate people kill. But he handed her his phone anyway. You have 5 minutes before I send my men in. After that, I'm ending this my way. Laura's fingers trembled as she dialed. The phone rang once, twice. Hello, sister. Lily's voice was cheerful, manic. I was wondering when you'd call. Did you like my little surprise? Lily, please, they're children, our children. Your children. The cheer evaporated into venom. You got to keep 2. I got 2. That was the deal I made with the universe when I left you bleeding. But you couldn't accept it, could you? You had to come back, had to ruin everything. Laura heard crying in the background. Gabby, her stolen daughter, terrified. I built this life from nothing, Lily continued. Studied your mannerisms, your voice, your body language, became you better than you ever were, and he loved me. Sebastian Bercy loved me, not the pathetic girl who gave herself away in one night, me. He loved a lie. Better a loved lie than an unwanted truth. Through the phone, Laura heard wind, the crash of waves far below. Lily stepped back from the edge. Why? So you can take everything. The children, the money, the man, the life I earned. You didn't earn it, you stole it. Laughter high and broken. Semantics. You were always too weak, Laura, too soft. You would have wasted Sebastian's love on morality and hesitation. I made him an empire. You made him a widower, Laura's voice hardened, and you made my children orphans. Because when Sebastian's men storm that terrace, and they will, you won't survive it. Neither will they. Lily's words dropped into sudden, terrible calm. Did you know quadruplets share a special bond? Scientific studies say if one dies, the others feel it. Imagine all four going over together. Imagine that agony multiplied. Sebastian's hand was on his weapon. Don't, Laura grabbed his wrist. Lily, listen to me. You want the life, keep it. I'll disappear, I'll take nothing, just let the children go. Liar. I'm not. I swear on Mama's grave I'll vanish. You can have Sebastian, the estate, everything. Just don't hurt them. Silence stretched. Wind howled through the phone connection. You'd really walk away, Lily's voice cracked. From your own children. I'd die for them. Laura's tears fell freely now. Which means living without them if that's what keeps them breathing. Please, Lily, please. You were my sister before you were my enemy. There has to be something left. The gunshot shattered the night. Then screaming, children screaming. And the line went dead. The terrace was chaos, painted in moonlight and blood. Lily crumpled against the stone railing, her shoulder bleeding from where Sebastian's sniper had clipped her. Non-lethal. Precise. Exactly calculated to disarm without killing in front of the children. But her hand still clutched a gun, waving it wildly between the four sobbing kids huddled behind an overturned table. Stay back, Lily's scream was feral. I'll do it, I'll kill them all and jump, we'll all go together. Sebastian moved left, Laura moved right. 7 years apart, but their bodies remembered the same rhythm from one stolen night. Coordinated, synchronized, predator instinct recognizing its match. Lily, it's over. Laura kept her voice soft, approaching like Lily was a wounded animal, because she was. You're bleeding, you're surrounded. Let them go. So you can take everything. Lily's laugh was unhinged. So you can play the victim, poor Laura drugged and abandoned. Poor Laura left to die, except you didn't die, did you? You became this. She gestured at Laura with the gun. This plastic perfect bitch in your designer armor. The prosthetic on Laura's face was slipping. Sweat and adrenaline weakening the adhesive. She felt it peel at the edge, revealing the scar tissue beneath. The evidence of the surgery that had rebuilt her from photographs and rage. You want the truth. Laura's voice turned to ice. Fine. Sebastian, you want to know why you don't remember that night 7 years ago? Why the woman in your bed couldn't recall the details? Why Lily never sang you that lullaby again? Sebastian's gun didn't waver from Lily, but his eyes cut to Laura. Because you were drugged. Laura ripped the prosthetic off completely, revealing her reconstructed face. Different cheekbones, refined nose, but the eyes were the same ones that had looked up at him that night. Lily drugged your drink at your father's funeral. She watched us together. And when you passed out, she took my place in your bed. You woke up with her. You thought she was me. The words landed like bullets. Sebastian's face drained of color. What? He doesn't remember. Lily's manic grin widened. He doesn't remember you, Laura. The sex, the connection, the supposed soul-deep bond. He remembers me. I'm the one in his memories. I'm the one who stole my life. Laura's voice cracked. You drugged him. You drugged me. You waited until I'd given birth, and then you took my bobbies while I bled out on the floor. Our bobbies. Lily's correction was vicious. I carried them in spirit. I raised them. I earned them. You're insane. I'm surviving. Lily's gun swung toward Dylan. Her Dylan. The boy she'd molded for 7 years. And if I can't have this life, no one can. Sebastian fired. Not at Lily, at the gun in her hand. The shot was perfection, ricocheting off the barrel, sending the weapon spinning over the cliff's edge. Lily lunged for the children. Laura tackled her sister, both women crashing into the stone. Fists, hair, blood, 7 years of agony exploding into violence. Lily clawed at Laura's reconstructed face, drawing blood. Laura slammed her sister's head against the terrace once, twice. Enough. Sebastian's hands pulled them apart, iron grip on both women. It's over, Lily, look. His men surrounded them, weapons drawn, escape impossible. And the children, all 4 children, stared at the 2 identical women with dawning, terrible understanding. Mama, Ivy's small voice shattered the silence. Which one is our real mama? Laura's eyes met Sebastian's. In them, she saw the moment 7 years ago. The jasmine, the song, the connection he'd thought was Lily but had always been her. Both of us, Laura whispered, still pinned under Sebastian's grip. And neither of us deserves you. 3 months later, Laura watched her children play in the Bercy estate gardens and tried to remember how to breathe without armor. Lily was gone. Not dead. Laura couldn't bring herself to order that, despite everything, but disappeared into a psychiatric facility in Switzerland under a false name. Exile wrapped in medical care. The kind of mercy that felt like weakness until Laura remembered she was breaking the cycle, not perpetuating it. The poison was out of Sebastian's system. The color had returned to his face, along with the predatory grace that made him dangerous. He stood beside her now, close but not touching, respecting the distance she'd built between them like a moat. They're happy, he said quietly. Dylan was teaching Noah how to climb trees while Ivy and Gabby braided flowers into crowns. 4 children who'd spent 7 years as 2 separate pairs, now whole. That's something. It's everything, Laura's voice caught. It's everything I fought for. And us, Sebastian turned to face her fully. Is there an us to fight for? She'd known this question was coming. Had rehearsed 17 different answers, each one a variation of not yet, or maybe never, or you believed her over blood. You were drugged, she said instead. I've had 3 months to accept that, to understand that you're as much a victim as I am. But you never questioned her. 7 years, Sebastian. 7 years of living with a woman who didn't know your grandmother's lullaby, who flinched at real intimacy, who controlled everything because she was terrified you'd see through the mask. And you never once wondered. His jaw tightened. I was grieving my father, building an empire, raising children I thought were mine with a woman I thought I knew. By the time I could have questioned, it was too late. The lie was the foundation. I know, and she did. Rationally, she understood. Emotionally, she was still the girl bleeding on a clinic floor, watching her sister walk away with her children. I know, and I'm trying, but trying isn't the same as trusting. Then let me earn it. Sebastian dropped to one knee and Laura's breath stopped. Not with a ring, not yet. You're not ready and I haven't proven myself. But let me try. Let me be their father. Let me show you that the man you spent one night with, the man who sang to you in the dark, who made you feel safe enough to create life, that man is still here. Tears blurred her vision. And if I can't love you, if too much has been destroyed, then I'll love you anyway. His hand reached for hers, hovering, asking permission. I'll love you the way I should have 7 years ago if the world had been fair. Completely, patiently, without expecting anything in return except the chance to watch our children grow. Laura took his hand. Not a promise, not forgiveness, just contact, just the possibility of something built on truth instead of lies. In the garden, Dylan called out, Dad, Mom, come see what we found. 4 voices, 4 children, 1 family, fractured and rebuilt and still figuring out how all the pieces fit. Sebastian looked at her, question in his eyes. Laura nodded. They walked toward their children together, hands linked, the space between them still filled with hurt and hope, and the long road toward healing. Behind them, the Bercy estate stood like a fortress. Ahead, 4 pairs of identical eyes watched their parents approach with the uncomplicated joy of children who'd finally found what they'd been missing. You found us, Gabby said, holding up a family of rabbits living beneath the rose bushes. A whole family, all together. Laura knelt down, gathering all 4 children into her arms. Sebastian's hand rested on her shoulder, steady, present, earning his place one moment at a time. Yes, Laura whispered into their dark hair, breathing in the jasmine-scented evening and the sound of her children's laughter. We found each other, finally. And for the first time in 7 years, the word family didn't taste like ash in her mouth. It tasted like possibility. Thank you for staying until the end. That means more than you think. If this story touched something inside you, subscribe, like, and tell me what you felt in the comments. I read every single one because this isn't just storytelling, it's connection. And if you're ready for the next journey, don't wander too far. The next story is already waiting in the dark.